tens of thousands of unprocessed asylum seekers that need to be housed is a huge problem for
So you'll be putting the homeless families into those hotels?
No. We're looking at what accommodation is available, and I'll make sure that we send a detailed...
Keir Starmer faces tough questions on migrant housing plans after hotel closures. You could feel the tension in the room. The cameras were rolling, the lights were bright, and Keir Starmer, Britain's Prime Minister, was standing right there, facing one of the toughest questions of his political career. Where will the migrants go when the hotels close? A simple question. Direct. Straightforward. But what followed was anything but simple. Starmer paused. He shifted slightly, took a breath, and began to answer carefully, cautiously, the way a man does when he knows every word could end up as a headline. This moment happened during a press conference focused on the Labour Party's approach to immigration and housing. Reporters were pressing for clarity after the government's announcement that taxpayer-funded hotels used to house asylum seekers would soon be phased out. The question, though, hit Starmer right where the political tension is hottest: how to balance compassion, public pressure, and practical solutions. Because whether you agree with the current policy or not, one fact remains: thousands of migrants are still waiting for a decision on their asylum status, and many have no alternative accommodation ready once those hotels shut their doors. So when the question was asked, where will they go? People expected a plan, a vision, a clear path forward. But instead, what they got was hesitation. Starmer began by saying that Labour supports an efficient and fair asylum system, that Britain has always offered refuge, and that we must ensure communities are not overstretched. All reasonable points. All politically safe. But he never quite got to the heart of it: where, exactly, people will be housed once the hotels close. The clip went viral almost immediately. One journalist tweeted, "Starmer dodged the question 3 times, the public deserves specifics." Another wrote, "This is the kind of answer that sounds polished, but says very little." And just like that, the debate was on. Here's what makes this story so fascinating: it's not just about policy, it's about perception. Because for months, Starmer has been building his public image as the calm, steady alternative to the chaos of previous years. He's disciplined, controlled, strategic. But moments like this, moments of visible discomfort, chip away at that image. You could almost see the political calculation happening in real time. He didn't want to alienate voters worried about migration numbers. He didn't want to sound heartless toward people seeking refuge. And he certainly didn't want to make promises Labour couldn't afford to keep. So, he took the safe route: speak in principles, avoid specifics. But in today's media landscape, that's exactly what people notice. For over a decade, the UK has struggled with how to handle asylum accommodation. Hotels were never meant to be a long-term fix. They were an emergency measure that stretched into years of political headaches. Local councils say they're overwhelmed. Residents say they were never consulted. And yet, closing the hotels without alternative housing ready could create another crisis, one that falls directly on the next government's shoulders. Starmer knows this. He knows that any detailed answer could backfire: too generous, and he risks criticism from the right. Too strict, and he angers the left. It's a tightrope walk. And in that moment, he slipped, just a little. Social media reactions came flooding in. One viewer commented, "He's been preparing for this question for months and still had no answer." Another wrote, "He's cautious because he knows the country's watching every word. It's not easy, but we need transparency." Even political insiders weighed in. A Labour source reportedly told a political blog, "We have a plan, but we can't announce it yet, we're not in government." Meanwhile, a Conservative MP fired back, saying, "If Starmer can't explain where migrants will live now, how can he manage the system later?" The back and forth became the headline of the day, and for good reason. Because this wasn't just about immigration. It was about leadership. When a leader hesitates, people notice. And when it comes to an issue as sensitive as migration, where emotions, economics, and identity all collide, hesitation feels like uncertainty. But here's the other side of it. Politics isn't that simple. Starmer's team has been pushing a message of fairness and control, ending the use of hotels, speeding up asylum decisions, and ensuring local communities aren't burdened. On paper, it sounds like a middle ground approach. But turning that paper plan into real-world housing? That's the challenge. There are not enough affordable homes. Councils are stretched thin. and public patience is wearing out. So when Starmer stumbles over that question, it's not just about what he said, it's about what he didn't have ready to say. You could almost feel the political temperature rising in that room. The journalist repeated the question, "But where will they live?" And Starmer responded with a half-smile, nodding slowly, before talking about partnership with local authorities and long-term housing reforms. But once again, no direct answer. It was the kind of exchange that gives commentators endless material. TV panels replayed it again and again, dissecting every pause. YouTubers and podcasters debated whether Starmer was avoiding the issue or simply being smart enough not to commit to a policy still in development. Either way, it left an impression. And maybe that's the real takeaway here, not that Starmer failed to answer, but that the question itself exposed how complex, how politically dangerous, and how emotionally charged the migration debate has become in Britain. Because everyone agrees the hotel system can't go on forever. Everyone agrees that communities need clarity. But nobody seems to have the full solution yet. So, in that moment of hesitation, Starmer wasn't just buying time, he was reflecting a much bigger truth. Britain still hasn't decided what kind of country it wants to be on this issue. So the next time Keir Starmer faces that question, where will they live? He'll need more than prepared talking points. He'll need a clear answer that resonates not just with policymakers, but with the people watching at home, the taxpayers, the voters, the communities living this reality every day. Because right now, that hesitation, that pause might say more than any speech ever could.